Good morning, guys, and welcome to Unique Not Different with me, Shamla. And today I have Chelsea Ramkissoon, who is a special ed student at the University of Trinidad and Tobago, and also a passionate advocate for children with disabilities. And I also have Dr. Margaret Nakhid-Chatoor, who is an education psychologist and as an assistant professor at the University of Trinidad and Tobago. Today, we are going to focus on children with disabilities. So good morning, Dr. Chatoor, and I will start with you. So in terms of, children with disabilities, I want to focus on early intervention. Okay, so we have children with different types of disabilities, even in autism and Down syndrome and so on, right? And every child is different. But in terms of getting that child prepared for schooling, what early intervention should parents do to prepare that child for schooling?
Good morning, everyone. Good to be here, Shamla. Thank you for having me on. So as you know, with any disability, early intervention is key. Recognition of what the disability is, and also an awareness of what we have in the society to help parents understand the disability, one, and possibly incorporate effective strategies for them, whether it is within the home and within the school. As you know, our system of education at the moment is moving more and more towards inclusion. Usually, before, many parents with children with disabilities kept their children at home. They were very embarrassed. They didn't want to have them as part of the school system. And unfortunately, many principals in our system did not like children with disabilities in their schools. All right, because they were not properly informed of what should happen. They did not have the necessary resources to accommodate these children. Now that we have a disabilities bill that is being drafted to really address all of these inequities, I think it is a good thing. And as we said, early intervention is important, but more importantly, getting an awareness of what could happen within the society with its limited accommodations for our children.
So Chelsea, you being, a student in special education, right? And I guess going into special ed, you had a general knowledge about children with disabilities and disabilities in general. So what have you learned in terms of, myths and misconceptions of children and with disabilities?
First of all, thank you, Shamla, for having me. The thing I learned and working with parents as well, collaboration is important. It is extremely important. If your teachers and your therapists and the caregivers do not come together to facilitate that child and their needs, nothing is going to work in the classroom. People think that inclusion is only for students with mild disabilities, but that's not the case. Inclusion encompasses a wide range of abilities and disabilities. Also, you have people saying that inclusion hampers the learning of other students, which is not true, because inclusive environments benefits all the children, promoting empathy and diverse perspectives. Also, we have one size fits all in the inclusive classroom, which is not true, because there are many types of inclusion where you have all the children in the mainstream classroom, the general ed teacher and the special ed teacher working together to have that differentiated instruction, tailoring their lesson plans to the needs of each child. Also, we have inclusive education involves flexible approaches. We need to tailor, sit down, take that time to learn each student, especially if you're a new teacher coming in, new term, get to know your students, have group activities, do your social stories. So you, the teacher, will be able to formulate that relationship, that trust in relationship, which is very important for your student to get to know you, for you to get to know your student.
Dr. Chatoor, just piggybacking off of Chelsea, right? In terms of the actual education system and to do these things, right? For example, the mainstream school, we have, we want to integrate children with disabilities into the mainstream school. Good. How should teachers be equipped to deal, or what should be done in those mainstream schools to support those children? Because we don't want to seclude, because at the end of the day, these children have to end up being, going into public and living, amongst people.
Correct, Shamla. And often what Chelsea said, she mentioned a few things, and they really relate to the misconceptions that people have about inclusive education. She said, it only concerns children with disabilities, but we know inclusion is not just children with disabilities, but children and adolescents who have a range of dysfunction. Another thing is that and one thing, as you said, the mainstream schools, people think that they can just have access to education, that is children with disabilities, and that is enough. But that's not enough just to make the availability of schools there for the children. It is important also to recognize that within this, you have to have equitable provisions and resources within the school to ensure that all learners are met at the point of their needs. Remember that in one classroom, there could be 5 children with 5 different needs. So I would say that in moving forward, what we have to look at really is, one, know the different learning styles of each child. And that's where IEPs come in, individualized education plans. And as I always advocate, this is not an option for teachers in the classroom. Once you know and once you are aware that there are different learning styles in the classroom, the IEPs, or these individualized education plans, must be developed. Then you have to also let students work at their own pace. I think that integration in the classroom is excellent for all students because they get accustomed to interact with persons who are differently abled. But you need to know what are the learning paces of these students and have approaches to them in the classroom. And if we have to just break it down, like Chelsea, I think, started to say, for visual learners, you have to have, therefore, more charts, more pictographs. For auditory learners, have possibly listening to audiobooks or electronic devices in the classroom. So each classroom, and I think this is where the Ministry of Education comes in to provide resources, because I've been to the schools and I know that there are some teachers out there who are doing a fantastic job to accommodate students, but OJTs are not enough. You must have resources, you must have collaboration with parents, and you must have parents involved in this exercise, because there are many parents who, as I say, are very ashamed to send their children to school and have given up on a system that they think has failed their children.
In 30 seconds, right? You mentioned before, right? In 30 seconds, because we are out of time. Can you just talk about in terms of what you've been working on in a group, a council that would support this?
All right, so I deal a lot with children with disabilities, but with children who are dyslexic, for example,
Right.
and the ability to recognize children who are autistic and so on. Learning disabilities or dyslexia is one of the main, I think, issues within our classrooms today. 1 in every 4 or 5 children have dyslexia, and it is a disability that it is misunderstood and not recognized, even by teachers within our system, who think that children possibly are not trying hard enough, are not doing what they should, are being lazy, etc. So I think when we look at disabilities, etc., and I belong to NODES, which is the Network Outreach for Disability Education and Sensitization, we're not looking at the draft bill, and we are realizing that while it is good, a well-written draft, we need to include not just persons with those learning disabilities, but mental children who have mental problems, because that is a disability in itself. The fact that if you are mentally ill, you are unable to function within the classroom. And I think the provisions for that in our draft bill is not properly delineated or emphasized or detailed enough so that parents can know what to do, where to go, how to do it.
Okay, so Dr. Chatoor, Chelsea, we are out of time, but I really want you guys back in January. Please make this time, because this is a really, really interesting topic. And I'm so sorry that we are out of time, but we will continue with this very, very interesting, eye-opening and enlightening. So, guys, with that being said, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in to this week's segment of Unique and Different. As I always say, be good, do good. Bye, everyone. Thank you.